Thank you for being here. Today, my name is Charles Sine. I'm the CEO of Anti-Fragility Health. Can you get them notepads and pens? I'm the CEO of Anti-Fragility Health. We have clinics here and in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So today we're going to be talking as part of our series of workshops about what we call our integrated cancer protocol. Why am I talking about cancer today? It's a big topic with our partner, potential partner in Hanoi. She's opening a hospice, and it's something that we are working on together to explore. So I'm going to start first by talking about something else that is really critical, and that is methylation. So we're going to start with a brief conversation about methylation. You know, I know Kim always says I shouldn't be too technical, but Kim, I apologize.
I can always Google it.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss it. Okay. It's a very interesting topic that is really hot. Methylation. And most of it is around DNA methylation, and then we explore what we call histones and some other things. But let's just stay with methylation. So methylation comes from the idea of a CH3 group. And these CH3 groups are called methyl groups. They're very active groups, and they are very reactive, and they bind. Our bodies need DNA methylation because this combination allows the proteins that are being made to be turned on or off. Okay, so let's take a brief walk again. We have our DNA. What are the 4 proteins that are in our DNA? Anybody has any idea? What are the 4 proteins in our DNA?
Protein.
There are 4 of them. C, T, G, A are the 4 proteins that make up our DNA. So pay attention, guys. This is very important. So that, yeah, these are the 4 proteins that make up your DNA. So take out your phones and Google them. When the genome was decoded, that was the most important thing about that decoding. It's these 4 proteins that are interlaced in producing the fabric of that matrix called the genome. So the C is cytosine. The G is, I think, guanine. Adenosine. I can't remember the T. Did you find it? The 4 proteins in the DNA. You can Google it on your phone.
Adenine, thymine, guanine.
Louder.
Thymine.
Or thymine. So it's cytosine, thymine, guanine, and adenosine. I can't hear you. Adenine. Okay. All right, it's all online. You don't have to read my writing. Did you find it?
No.
Why not?
You
Because
can
asked the wrong question.
actually you can Google nucleotide.
That's a big word.
Nucleotide.
We're not talking about big words.
No, you're supposed to be educated. It's in your body.
Yes, I know.
Did you find it?
No. I give up.
All right, but it's important that we learn about this because it's really very important for our health. Okay? So the DNA is made up of these proteins, or what you call nucleotides. These nucleotides provide signals to what we call the messenger RNAs, and they then build the proteins that are needed in the body. Okay? And the signals here are on, off, or down. Those signals are driven by methylation. And what are some of those kinds of signals? The signal could be, let's grow hair or not. So when people start suffering from hair loss, right, is the epigenetic effect over time of saying we don't need to grow hair anymore, so it stops producing hair. And so what do we do in hair restoration? We go and we put stem cells in your head, and then it starts regenerating.
But isn't that genetic also, though?
No, we are changing the epigenetic structure for hair restoration. That's what we're doing. And so you start regrowing hair.
Target this certain protein, right?
Yeah, sorry, ask the question again.
No, when you want to fix the problem, you target the certain kind of this protein.
No, yeah, well, we're not targeting it. We're providing what we call growth factors that will stimulate or turn back on the proteins required for hair generation.
Is that process called methylation?
No. So the methylation is the process that would turn on or turn off. Hi, Victor. Yeah, it's about the signaling. Yes. Yeah.
Methylation is from word metabolism.
No, no. It's another biochemical process. It's called methylation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's what happens in American culture. He couldn't give us 5 minutes, right?
He's in a hurry
Yeah, to enjoy a long life, I guess, right?
to watch TV.
Exactly. So the reason why we're talking about methylation, it's a very important process. It's what creates this signaling to drive this whole process. You're going to see when we connect back to cancer that the part of this signaling around methylation is what really triggers mutation for the cancer to not, for the cells not to die, but to start multiplying. Those switches on, off, or down, right, are the switches that drive all biochemical processes in the body. They're very important switches. So methylation is tied to all this other big concept called epigenetic. So for example, if you keep smoking, it has an epigenetic effect in that smoking and that toxicity attracts this methyl group from your body, so there is not enough available for DNA methylation. Is that making sense? I'm going to give you some material and we're going to talk about some foods that help you rebuild your methylation architecture. We need enough of it. So toxicity, lack of nutrients, all of that deplete. And for some of us genetically, we don't have enough. Like people who have the MTHFR mutation, they don't have enough methyl groups genetically. So we need to take methyl B12 to support the folate metabolism. Is this making sense? And why am I going into this depth? I know Kim says sometimes, why do we need to know this technical? Because I don't want to be arguing with you every time why you need to take your B12. And why you're taking methyl B12 and not methyl B12, right? And what the folate metabolism is. You have to understand it. Because when you understand it, you are now inspired to take it. When we're not just giving you because we think we want to give you extra supplements. We're giving you because they are really fundamental for your biochemistry. Do you understand that?
Has to know that.
Yes, because 40% of people on average have that mutation. But generally, most people don't know. So over time, what happens, they have a default, a weakness in their folate metabolism, which causes a lot of problems. So the B12 issue leads to a lot of cancer, leads to a lot of Alzheimer's, leads to a lot of diabetes, because that deficiency is there and you don't even know you have it. Is that making sense? So we can't claim ignorance anymore that we didn't know.
So the test we've taken here in this clinic, do we know?
No, you should know,
We
yes.
should know.
Yes, and typically it comes with your Boston.
The Boston, they'll
Yes.
just tell you that.
Oh,
Yeah, the Boston, if you take the Boston,
I'll
it
have
has
to check
that.
that out.
Well, it is in your Boston report.
It's in the
Oh, I
Boston.
can't wait to highlight that.
Okay, right. Victor, are you aware of your MTFHR score? Whether you are on or off? Okay, so these are important things.
About B12?
Yeah, which B12 did we prescribe for you?
Oh, has an M behind it.
It has? So you have the methyl B12.
Yeah.
It means that you have the
Is that
mutation.
the phrase?
It depends. It comes in different forms.
I didn't have that. So I guess I don't have that information.
All right. So, but typically, if you've run your Boston heart, we would know whether you have the mutation, and we would have given you a B12 that's a methyl B12. We have other methyl products like methyl GAD and methyl CPG. So we have other methyl, because there are lots of people who are under or over methylated, and we're going to talk about that now.
I take B12 regularly and I have too much in my system. Is that a negative effect?
Yeah, well, the thing is that because you inject yourself with B12.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you need to regulate it. You need to manage it so that you don't get too much. The challenge with B12 is that you cannot have too much. Too much is not bad, because B12, guys, pay attention. This is important for your health. B12 is a water soluble, and therefore it is excreted out of your system.
Okay.
The only supplements that you should worry about are the oil soluble supplements.
Okay.
The water soluble supplements are easy to get out of your system. Can you help her with that? Don't know why you give them these drinks and then people can't pay attention, right?
So the B12 is water. So the hemp oil, is that considered an oil?
Obviously, it's
I'm just
oil.
asking. Yeah, hemp oil.
So what is an oil and what is water? And why are we talking about water and what are we talking? Hold on, it's important. I know most of you didn't do basic chemistry. So what is an oil and what is water? Why are those two things important?
Because oil doesn't blend. It just doesn't
Oil
mix
and
it.
water.
Just mix.
It does with some things.
Exactly.
Something.
Yeah, but you see, that just shows you guys didn't do chemistry, right? So there are two ways in which things can dissolve, either by water or by oil. That's it. That's how nature made it. You can dissolve anything, either by water or by oil.
Did not know that.
What other way did you think you could dissolve anything? Think about it.
Didn't know that oil dissolved.
I didn't know it.
Yes, you use oil to dissolve a lot of things. And the body also uses that same mechanism, right? So the body will absorb things, right? Like fats. They're bigger molecules, they have to be absorbed, right? And the rest, most carbohydrates and proteins are water-based. Most fats are oil-based, right? They all have to be absorbed, right? And the absorption and dilution and excretion are very different for water and for oil.
Is carbs oil or water?
Depends
What
on
do
the
you
oil.
think?
I think they're solid.
For example, which one?
Rice,
You say they are what?
solid.
The wrong
No, okay, no.
Depend on
The
the
Okay,
oil.
let's take a step back.
with the water.
So whether it's solid or not, it doesn't matter. Butter is solid, but it's
oil.
a fat,
It's a fat oil.
right? Corn is solid, but it's water soluble.
Yeah.
So you can make starch, right? You can mix it in water. So being water soluble or oil soluble has nothing to do with the state. You understand? It could be gas, liquid, or solid, but it would dissolve in either fat or in liquid. Are we clear now? Chemistry 101? Okay. The question was, why does the body need both systems?
The oil and
The water.
I think the water, we need it to flush out the toxin
Yes.
in one sense.
Yeah.
And then the oil to retain a certain nutrient in your body. That's why you need the oil base.
Yeah, we need
I'm just
fat.
trying
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm exploring it. These are the kind of questions that we should really bother about and Google, right, at night when we wake up rather than worry about stress about the past. Okay, so the body really uses the water system for a lot of what we call ionic exchange, right? So to move from the bloodstream to inside the cell is a process of ionic exchange of ions. Things don't actually move. There is an exchange of ions, right? Okay, let me draw it on the board. And that's the way transfer happens at the cellular level. So when we have a negative ion here and a positive ion here, this pulls that and that pulls that. And that's how things migrate. Is that making sense? And typically in water, H2O, you can end up with HO, which is actually negative. And if it's a negative ion here, it can pull things across the barrier to absorb into the cell. That's how absorption and excretion happens. Is that making sense? Okay, we're not going to repeat this stuff, right? Is this making sense? That's why if you don't drink enough water, your poo is very hard. Because there wasn't enough water in your system to take the poo out. Or your pee is very concentrated if you don't drink enough water. Because the body needs to dissolve all of those things, right, out of our system. Okay? All right. So now let's go to methylation. Sorry, I always open up topics that become challenging in the conversation.
We need to take chemistry.
That's why the guy walked out, because I didn't start talking about cancer immediately.
You talk to me the big words.
He wanted to just hear about cancer, and they wasn't talking, right? That was his complaint.
Yeah, he said that he overwhelming with chemistry. So I said that because the cancer may related to mutation.
He's too old to be impeached.
He's too old to be
To
impeached.
be impeached. No, to
All
be
right.
impeached.
William is here. Okay. So I gave you an extract of this book. So pay attention. Don't stop opening it. You don't know what it is. Pay attention. Right? So that I'll take you through. So what are adaptogens? Well, so there are two big words that are killing you here. Methylation and adaptogens. Right? And so Kara talks about how to balance your methylation support program to avoid excess methylation and optimize long-term health outcomes. We're going to talk about this, okay, slowly. So let's turn to the first page. So she says, let's do a methylation 101. This is really one of the reasons why I gave you these copies. So let's recap for those who already know. We're recapping methylation 101. Methylation, guys, pay attention. This is really very important. Methylation is one of those fundamental biochemical processes that occurs in every human cell all the time. Okay? It is very fundamental and it's very wide-reaching. Awareness of the importance of methylation has increased for a number of reasons, including it's a well-established effects of methylation deficiency on birth defects. Right? When children are born and they have defects, it is really an issue of methylation. That's why many foods are fortified with folic acid, a synthetic nutrient that increases methylation activity. Give me an example of a food that's fortified with folic acid.
Baby's milk.
Yes, baby's milk, right? Most times if you go to the shop and you look at baby's milk or orange juice, check the orange juice on the counters. It will say fortified with vitamins, and sometimes they will say it's fortified also with folic acid. Right? Check it. I know people just buy orange juice. I don't drink those packs anymore, but if you drink the orange juice pack, you would see it on the pack. Second, the established link between elevated homocysteine levels, an indicator of methylation insufficiency and heart disease risk. So when we run Boston, this is one of the biomarkers that we look at, the level of your homocysteine. It is in your Boston report. And when that level is high, it is going to show that there's low methylation efficiency, insufficiency, right? There's not enough methylation, the CH3 groups that are used for DNA methylation, and there is an elevation of heart risk. So when there's a lot of toxicity inside of you, so a lot of these different things we do, we're cleaning your system so that they don't hold on to these good things that the body really needs, a lot of them available, like methyl groups. Okay? I know this is a difficult topic, but it's a very, very important topic. It's at the center of what we call epigenetics. And this is really what's causing a lot of cancer. So we're going to the origins of this conversation. Are we clear? All right. Then there is the increased use of the MTHFR gene testing, which we just discussed. Right? Are we clear? Everybody's clear about that? Elizabeth, why are you not clear? What's the problem?
I'm not clear on the MTHFR.
That's the mutation we were just talking about your B12 mutation. All right, okay. So the MTHFR gene codes for an enzyme that activates folate and folic acid so that it can be used to support methylation activity. That's why that B12 conversation and the homocysteine conversation is a very big one. And Prasant must have taken you through that, just that you don't remember. It is normally when you get your Boston report, it's a big conversation around that. And he must have taken you through before he made the prescription for B12. Okay? I know you don't remember, that's why we have these classes. Specific MTHFR gene variations are associated with increased risk for many diseases, including what? Autism, depression, fertility, insomnia, thyroid disease, and much more. Are you getting this? So this is a big issue, okay? And why are we talking about it now? It is really an evolving area of research. It's a very new area of research that they discovered this whole issue of methylation. So at a basic level, methylation involves the formation of methyl groups, the CH3 groups I was talking about, groups on proteins in their body. There are two kinds of methylation activity we need to think about. One, metabolic methylation. That is methylation that helps either form or degrade biologically active proteins. So when proteins come into your body, this methylation attaches or binds to those proteins, and let's see what they use it for. Those that are formed through methylation include neurotransmitters, DNA bases, immune cells, CoQ10, and phospholipids. Those that are degraded using methylation include stress hormones, toxins, estrogens, and histamines. So the CH3 group is used to form proteins that are very critical or degrade proteins that are required to be metabolized. Is that making sense? It's a very, very important topic, guys. Seriously. Number two, we get to the heart of this issue, DNA methylation. Methylation that is attached to specific sections of the DNA and then regulates the expression of the genes. That's what I was talking about here, the gene expression. Okay? And what is gene expression? Yes.
Yeah,
the on-off of what the gene, the protein is going to do. Do we produce the protein for hair loss or not? Right? On, off. That's what happens every moment in the cell. Oh, we got all of this. Should we produce the protein for good eyesight? On, off. And if we don't have the methyl group that would support that, then it's off. Okay? So this is what epigenetics is. That's what I was trying to explain. Epigenetics is the impact that the environment has on our DNA expression. Is that making sense? So if I came and my DNA was that I will always have good hair, but I live in a toxic environment, then that toxicity might switch off the expression of hair. That's epigenetics. The environment switching off the expression. Is that making sense? That's what they call epigenetics. The environment switching on or off the expression. Kim is lost.
No, I'm trying to do it in a similar term. Like, okay, it's like, it doesn't explain that in that sense. Like women, when they have baby, they lose their hair, and some of them don't come back again. So that's an epigenetic that causes it.
Yeah, it could be epigenetic. I mean, we don't know. It could be epigenetics, or it could just be a nutrient depletion.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Because the thing the issue with modern life is that the women who are having babies are not being well taken care of as they used to be before.
That's at the point because
Yes.
people say, most women after they're pregnant, they lose their hairs and most of them come back.
Yeah.
Because the lack of the nutrient that you explained right here, that's why that button switch off.
Oh, yes.
But it wasn't explaining that to you.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you understand? But we cannot identify which specific environmental triggers are turning off or turning on.
That's why we
Can't
gotta get.
identify it.
We cannot.
It's all happening in all the cells all the time. Who's going to identify it?
So,
Except you're tied to a machine where we're watching everything going on.
correct it, then.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah.
No.
Okay, but don't you have to first know that something is going on? And then so the next time you say I don't like broccoli, you know what you're saying. Because
you have to eat it.
good, we're getting to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's the thing in America. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like it. There's no choice. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know.
Okay, so let's continue read slowly. Can you give them copies? So for most part, that's where we are. Is everybody walking with me?
Yeah.
Victor, are you following me slowly?
I am, yes.
Good. All right. For most part, more DNA methylation turns genes off. That's what we'll call being over-methylated. Right? And less methylations turns genes on. That's what we'll call less methylation. Yes, your genes are not your destiny. And this is where we arrive at the issue of epigenetics. That you could actually use the environment to turn the genes that you inherited on or off. Right? So even though white men were not built to be marathon runners, you could train yourself and become a good marathon runner. Is that making sense? Because genetically you don't have the architecture that guys who grew up in Ethiopia and Somalia have. That's why they win all the marathons. But you could train yourself, and epigenetically you would build the architecture to win marathons. Is that making sense? Okay, that's really the core issue about epigenetics. So your DNA is not your destiny. So if you came from Africa like I do, and you have the mutation, that means that you do not metabolize carbohydrates very well. You could train your body to really have an optimized carbohydrate metabolism. And how would you do that?
Taking the supplement
And, and be active. So you drive your body to such that your body becomes more active in breaking down, right? So you cannot say like Hispanics and blacks have that weakness in that we eat carbohydrates and we grow fat very quickly compared to Vietnamese people who eat a lot of noodles and they're still thin, right?
Really short. We don't have the height. You know?
All right.
Advantages to being short.
All right, so quick, let's go to, is this going well? Are you guys enjoying this? I know it's heavy duty stuff. Jad, how are we doing? William, are you following? All right, good guys. This is heavy stuff, okay? And then we'll go to the lighter cancer stuff. Cancer is lighter because you're all excited by that, but let's go to the heavy stuff. All right? When we push methylation activity in the body with high dose of supplemental folate and B12, right, like he was talking about, key nutrients in the formation of methyl donating compounds, we are doing a lot to prevent methylation deficiency. As we have just seen, methylation deficiency causes a lot of illnesses like autism, like, what were we talking about? Depression, insomnia, fertility issues, thyroid disease. So that deficiency causes that. And when you go to the hospital, what the doctors do, they give you medication rather than look at the methylation architecture, which we test here, and begin to supplement. Because what happens when you're taking supplements? Epigenetic begins to start in that the body starts saying, wow, we now have enough nutrients. Let's change the genetics. That's epigenetics in itself. Are you getting that?
I have a quick question. Like this morning, I had a little bit to eat and I took like 10 vitamins.
Yeah, I took like,
Now, your body can absorb everything if you take it all at the same time.
Yes.
You're better off every couple
See,
hours.
the body was architected. It's just like saying if I eat egg and I eat avocado and I drink tea, can the body deal with that? Yes.
Okay.
That's why the body has this long migration. It's checking everything, removing the things it needs, and if you take too much, then
No, I think the question.
you understand. So the issue is that so especially if you take it with meal, right? First of all, you know the top of the stomach is very acidic. It's almost 1 pH. It melts the cover of the capsules. It breaks that immediately. It reaches the beginning of the stomach. So all of the things that you've taken is released immediately. Those 10 supplements you take, by the time it hits the beginning of the stomach, and that's why sometimes you bulge, right? That the release of that acidic gas. Yeah, you can taste the smell coming up, right? And the first thing that begins to break up are proteins. So if there are any peptides or amino acids in what you take, the analysis begins. Then it does the fat metabolism, then it does the carbohydrate. All of that is being broken down in the stomach. Then as it travels through the duodenum, the small intestines to the large, it's the absorption that is happening.
No,
Is that making sense?
No, I guess my question, and one Victor brought up, is that, like, some people, you can't take that one on an empty stomach. So what is, that's, I think.
Well, no. First of all, no, it doesn't matter.
It's okay, because some people get nauseated. When
No, I do too. That's why I don't take it on an empty stomach.
That's why I was
So
asking
take
the
it
You have to-
so that you're comfortable. We all have to find what works for us, right?
Because I do.
I don't,
If I get nauseated.
and that's why Dr. Ye and I were deciding yesterday to also order some liquid supplements, because some people would prefer liquid, some people might prefer powder, some people prefer capsules. So we want to create that option and that diversity.
I mean, I'll take them with my medical food, which has protein, then it's okay, but I wouldn't take them just with water. If you're gonna take 10 pills or 10 supplements, then you
You know, how come we're having this big conversation and we don't have it when we are talking about having your beef rare or well cooked or raw?
Beef,
Yeah, meat.
meat roll.
Isn't it the same issue the body is going to deal with?
Yeah.
Eating raw sugar cane or cooked sugar cane, or it's the same issue about how the body metabolizes. They're all complex issues. But the body has an architecture to deal with it. And then it gets used to it.
Yeah, you get how you get
The body gets used to it, which is epigenetics also. Wow, this guy takes supplements at 8 a.m. So let's get ready. It's coming. Then it arrives in a big mess. Oh, Victor again did a mess today. Then the body is checking. Did he take all the things he's supposed to take? Oh, he missed his B12. But we know Victor. So how do we compensate for Victor missing his B12? The body is very smart. It's checking all of that.
You start craving foods.
Yes, it makes you crave things, right? Or it makes you thirsty because you didn't take enough water when you swallowed it. Or it makes like it's going to come back up and you think, oh shit, let me get some more water, right? For example, I have to sit up in the evenings when I take supplements because if I go lie down, sometimes I feel like it's going to come back up. Okay? All right, let's look at the risks of excess methylation. This is where understanding of epigenetics and DNA methylation becomes critical. I love this class because I can see your brains all warming up, right? Being heated up in a fat space. All of a sudden, nobody's complaining about cold anymore.
It's cold.
No, I have a blanket. Sometimes, okay, let's continue while we get you blanket. Do you need blanket? What's your name? Rosa. And Chris?
Yeah.
Is Chris your son?
Yes.
Chris, how are you?
Good.
Good to have you, my friend. Thank you. Hi, Chris, thank you for being here. Sometimes it is helpful to limit the expression of certain genes through methylation, such as, pay attention, such as genes that overactivate immune cells in autoimmunity. You see, those people who have autoimmune disease, they're overactivated, right? Their immune system is on. Something triggered the overactivation of, that's why they have autoimmune. And what happens in autoimmunity? Your body turns against itself. It's overreacting, right? And that is one of the problems, right? So you want to limit. Or genes that inhibit proper bone formation, like in older women that start having osteoporosis, right? And density. But extra methylation is not uniformly beneficial. Increased methylation on tumor suppression and DNA repair genes can turn those genes off, increasing the risk of cancers, right? In fact, DNA methylation agents are an important part of our cancer fighting pharmaceutical toolkit. Now we're arriving at that cancer place. Do you guys not get it? The need for balance makes methylation adaptogens essential in any methylation support program. Okay? Now, what are methylation? Okay, who now can tell me what methylation is? Because we are now adding another big word, adaptogens. What is methylation?
It's a DNA protein.
Victor, what is DNA methylation? What is methylation?
Well, it says right here, DNA methylation is attached to specific sections of the DNA and regulates expressions of the genes.
Correct. So it goes unattached. Well, if you can look at it, there are two types, metabolic methylation and DNA methylation, right? Okay, so let's now talk about adaptogens. Adaptogens, it's it comes from botanical medicine, and it refers to plant-based compounds that promotes balance within a biochemical pathway. That's why I was talking about broccoli. We're going to face bok choy, broccoli, and all of those things that Kim doesn't like, because she's going to have to like it if she wants to manage her methylation, right?
No, I think the CLA or what the... I have that now. No, I took that. Because
You gave her the greens,
no, I
the
don't.
paleo greens?
No, what is that, CPG? No, the CLA or whatever it's called.
CLA, no, that's CLA, that's fat.
That's
So
what
you need to
that's
do
what told me.
the, so
That's what
hold on. That's why we have this. For those people who don't like to take, they don't like to eat vegetables, we have that adaptogens, the red paleo and the green paleos. Because a lot of people do not eat the greens and the different colors of them, which are critical for methylation. That's what adaptogens are. That's what we're talking about now, right? That's why they say your salad needs to have different colors. That's really what they mean. These are methylation adaptogens, right? They're very, very crucial for our health. That's why when you're buying peppers, you want to buy the green, the red, and the yellow. You want the combination, not just say, I like the green one. You want to get the yellow one too, you want to get the red one, the pink one. You want to mix it all up. You want to get the green carrots and the red carrots. You want to get the yellow cabbage and the purple cabbage. All of those colors are very, very important. Is that making sense? All right, let's go through this quickly. You want me to read all of this for you, or you're going to read it by yourself? So let's turn to that page where we're going to talk about the foods. Eat your methylation adaptogens, right? Cruciferous vegetables. So you don't only have to take my supplements, but because most of you are not cooking, you have to take my supplements.
Yep.
That's the only way, right, William? That's the only way you're gonna get. Victor, do you cook?
Yes.
Okay, you eat cruciferous vegetables, Victor?
I lean towards the Brussels sprouts. I cut them in half and I...
So you do arugula, broccoli, bok choy, Brussels sprouts. I'm looking at your son, he's shaking his head. Cabbage, right? Cauliflower, horseradish, kale, kohlrabi, radish, rutabago, wasabi, watercress.
Watercress is good. But you cannot get fresh from here, so I can't go.
Right. This is Mr. Adaptogen. He just walked in. Mr. Adaptogen, right? So let's go to the next set. No, sit over here.
Oh, that's okay.
That way I can see you. No,
Okay.
it's better for me. So the next set are berries. Berries are high in many methylation adaptogens, including anthocyanins, chlorogenic acid, ellagic acid, and quercetin. Actually, we have supplements for all of that. We give you all these things because we want to make you feel so good, and then you get addicted to us. Because your restaurants cannot give you these good additives, right? Choose a variety of different berries, including blackberries, blackcurrants, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. I can only eat blueberries because the others are too sweet for me.
The raspberry is not sweet.
Yeah, we love berries by themselves. Have you ever closed your eyes, popped a berry in your mouth, and mindfully enjoyed the taste sensation that berries truly are? Well, in America, the berries don't even taste that well, so, except you go to farmer's market, right? Turmeric, which we have. Where is our turmeric? Oh, we have the curcumin here. Bring the other pack that I have open so that everybody can have a chew. The candy. So what does he say about turmeric? Turmeric's active methylation adaptogen is curcumin. That's why you're gonna get some curcumin. There's only one left. Who's been eating my curcumin? Have you been eating my curcumin? I think you've been visiting here and taking these curcumins, right? come open the other one so that everybody can taste it. So you can see that curcumin, you know the Indians use this a lot for cooking. So curcumin is a common ingredient in curry spices, and you know upstairs we serve Indian food every week. So you combine turmeric with black pepper in your cooking for increased absorption, right? You can also try a recipe. Then there's the shiitake mushrooms, right? Shiitake mushrooms, right? Shiitake mushrooms, right? Rather than pass the pack, everybody puts their hand in. You hand it to them. Come on. All right. So shiitake mushrooms, you may already know of the anti-cancer benefits of, right? Pay attention, guys. That's why the Japanese eat shiitake mushrooms so much, and they are the most expensive mushrooms, right? You buy them, right? They're very expensive. And you know, some Americans will say to me, why are these mushrooms so expensive when I can get the other cheap ones for half a price at Costco? But you know, Costco will not sell shiitake mushrooms. They're very expensive, right? Or rosemary. How many of you use rosemary to cook or in your soups, right? All right. So I wanted to spend some time, and then there is rosemary tea also for your adaptogen. I wanted to spend some time talking about methylation. So first of all, guys, B12 or the whole B vitamins, if they were the most important vitamins, they are actually the most important vitamins, the B vitamins. So that is one set of vitamins that you really need to pay attention to. They are so critical to everything else. I know we can say the same thing about vitamin D and K. We can say the same thing about omega-3s, right? The balance with 6. We could say the same thing with other ones, but I'm just saying that the B ones tend to really be at the source of a lot of chronic illnesses. So the B12 one we've just been exploring around folate and the homocysteine metabolism. Okay, any questions on that? Are we good? Victor, you're happy? There's confirmation now why you should go to farmer's market and eat all those beautiful things. Okay, come hand out these leaflets for cancer. Let's talk about cancer. So I put an African woman's picture on it just because it was a beautiful picture.
Absolutely.
Right? And she looked like, you know that song from Santana called Black Magic Woman?
Right.
How many people know that song? Black Magic Woman, right? So she's looking at you with that eye like, do you have cancer? So let's talk about our cancer protocol. Okay, guys, pay attention. Very American. They give you something and you open all of it. You know, slow down. It's like when I invite you home to eat, you don't start eating all the food when we haven't even prayed yet, right? You see this rush in the culture? It's a cultural thing. In Africa, if you give people things, they will just hold it and wait. In America, you give them things, they open it. Oh, but you know, why is this here?
We're in a hurry up and wait culture.
There is this desire to rush, get to the end, and then we don't understand anything. Do you understand? And if we collectively understand it, it helps all of us collectively. Right? And then you see some people in class, oh, I know that already. Well, but you don't know what the person is going to be talking about. You understand? So it's very important that we're always patient and open to learning new things. Okay? Because in that process, we're going to get knowledge that we didn't have before. So why are we calling this an integrated cancer protocol? Because we do believe that. Now we're going to go into the biology of cancer. So pay attention. We're going to go into the biology of cancer. Pay attention. What causes cancer? Elizabeth. How do you know that toxins cause cancer?
Well, they're not good in your body, and they're a negative entity, and it will.
So yesterday we were discussing, he was in my office, about the two theories of how cancer comes about. So let's learn that, okay? There are two theories on the origin of cancer, and then we're going to talk about. The first theory is a theory of mutation. We're not going to go back into what causes mutation. Some of it is the methylation that we just discussed, right? And what's a mutation? What's a mutation?
Evolving.
Yes, it is a state that is changing on how the DNA expresses. Right? That's what a mutation is. For example, in Africa, you will find people who are mulattoes. They have white skin. Right? That's a mutation. It's a melanin mutation. Right? It's not that the mother had a white boyfriend. It's that it's just a mutation on skin color. I know in America people go crazy because a lot of people are ignorant. In the village, we know that mutation exists. So when the child comes out looking white, and we know there have been no white men hanging around the neighborhood, we know it's a natural mutation that happens. And those children are called a certain name, right? And you know they cannot stay in the sun because they don't have eyelids to protect them. You have it in Hispanic culture too? Yes. Right? Every culture has it, right? White culture has it? The albinos, yes. Yes, right? So that's a mutation. I just wanted to use a mutation of melanin of the skin. So this is the one theory. The second theory is the theory of metabolism. So we are saying that when cells are deprived of certain nutrients, they become cancerous. Okay, so those are what the two theories are saying. Why are we not bending in one theory or the other? It's because nobody knows. We all know that the cell has become cancerous. We don't know what really triggered it. And we know that when we look at the beginning of the sources, right, this metabolic theory and this mutation theory both satisfy the conditions for what happens in the cell. Typically, by the time a cell becomes cancerous, about 30% of its mitochondrial architecture, it's already compromised. It's already destroyed. What is the mitochondria, Elizabeth?
Mitochondria is, well,
You could Google it, or you could say you don't know.
It's the gene. The last time we talked about how it's
It's a workhorse.
mitochondria, isn't it the little
energy.
energy?
Yeah, it's the source, it's the energy powerhouse in the cell.
It's for energy.
Mitochondria is the energy source in the cell.
Yes. That powers our whole body.
But yeah, we need that.
All right. I need for you guys to understand these things because it's very important. So when there is dysfunction, what we call mitochondrial dysfunction, when that power in that cell is depleted, those cells become cancerous. And the underlying theory is that you cannot reverse those cells back to normal. So we have to remove those cells. Yes. When cells become cancerous, we have to remove them.
Is that what radiation?
Calm them down. I'm taking you step by step. So you cannot say, some people say naturally you could heal it. Yes, that is true. But it's a very risky proposition because it could work for you, it could not work for other people. Do you understand? So typically, there are a couple of strategies that people would go in. They would go for chemotherapy, will go for radiation, will go for surgery, will go for immunotherapy, or will go for wait and see. No, it is an option. A lot of people for cancer take wait and see because they change their lifestyles. And then
Oh, that way
They
to changing lifestyle to bring back.
yeah, and they keep checking. They keep checking. Is it going?
No, I can tell Wednesday that you sit there and do nothing. Is what-
I didn't say that.
You said wait.
I said wait and see. I didn't say do nothing. All these people are doing something.
Something, okay.
Right? All right. And so we understand what immunotherapy is, right? What's immunotherapy?
5 E's of
We support the
Changing
immune
the cell,
system in the
changing-
body.
It's therapy to that direction.
Yes, it's therapy that boosts your own immune system
Yeah.
to fight, right? Okay. What is surgery?
To remove the cancer.
Yes, and sometimes it's very difficult to remove all of it, right? Okay. And that's why typically when they do surgery plus
Radiation or chemo.
or chemo,
You have to do that.
right? Typically because they want to make sure they kill all the cells. So the issue of killing the cells is a very important issue. Why do we have to kill the cells?
Because they don't come back to life.
Because we can fix it.
Multiply, to not to multiply.
Yeah. So we don't want them to multiply, but also we're killing them because we cannot bring those cells back to activity. There is no real underlying research that says you can do that. Some people have done that, completely changed their lifestyle, moved to blue zones, and they have been healed. But there is no real research that shows that that is a current option you can take. Individuals can choose that. I cannot teach that as an option.
What is the blue zone?
Blue zones are those zones where people live the lifestyles we're going to talk about that give them health, and the incidence of chronic illness is very, very low.
Okay.
Like
Japan.
the island in Japan, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, and a couple of places around the world where people are very healthy and they live long and they don't have chronic illnesses, right? And we have looked at those blue zones, and that is where our ingredients come from that we're going to talk about.
Can we say, please, cancer is deformation of protein in the body?
You could say that, but that is really not a deformation of protein. It's a dysregulation at the of the cellular architecture. It's like there's a problem with your car engine that is making the car engine to do some crazy shit. It's not just a dysfunction. Out of that dysfunction, so let's talk briefly around that. So when cells divide, they go through their process where they are working, and then they have to die, right? There's a path to death. It's called senescence, right? So the cell has come, grown, it has to die. At this point, some cells refuse to die and they become cancerous. That happens in all of us every day. The reason why we don't get cancer is because our immune system is very strong, kills them, right? Because they're misbehaving. That's why we don't have. So the cancer cell, there are cells that are misbehaving every day and not going through the normal death pathway, right? And so our immune system is very powerful and it kills them off. Is that clear? So our program is how do we support people through these choices? If you chose radiation, chemo, or surgery, or immunotherapy, how do we take you through that process? That's what our integrated protocol is. And how do we do that?
Do
I would recommend what is suitable for your cancer. Yes, because we need to appreciate the fact that everybody's different. If I don't know your full clinical biomarkers and your biochemistry and your ability to comply to a rigid lifestyle, how can you make a recommendation? It's a very tough decision. It's a personal choice. Dr. Yi's mother, if I may talk about that, was diagnosed, and Dr. Yi chose not to go through with treatment because at the age at which her mother was diagnosed and the consequences that this treatment will impact on you, made the choice to have a better lifestyle than to go through that treatment. So it's a very individual issue. If she was 60 years old, that choice would have been different. But she was almost 80, 85 years old, so that choice was different. And she lived happily for 5, 6 years after that diagnosis, and then she died last year. Do you get that? So that's a real personal issue that we have actually experienced, right? But a lot of people are diagnosed with cancer, and they have to make some serious life choices. It's not a very simple question, right? So to ask me the question whether would I recommend chemotherapy or not, it's a very challenging question because it's really a question about your life. What we are offering is that whatever choice you make, we will then build a program to support the journey. Right? So let's open this manual and let's open it wide, full, and let's look at the middle of it. And let's walk through this so that you get very clearly what we're talking about. So there are two fundamental questions that open it wide, like that, full page. We're looking at the middle of it, wide, full page. Our approach to, because cancer is a chronic illness, so our approach to management, does everybody know that cancer is a chronic illness?
Yes.
Okay, because Elizabeth, you look kind of puzzled by that comment.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so cancer is a chronic illness because it actually comes from a combination of things we're going to talk about, and mostly lifestyle. So there are two questions that we ask when you want to understand a patient or a customer's problem. One is, does this customer need to be rid of something such as toxins, allergy, infection, poor diet, stress? Does this customer have an unmet individual need that must be filled for optimal function? And we go through that. There are 6 causes for chronic illness. 6 things that cause chronic illness. And they don't cause chronic illness directly. They cause what we call the 7 imbalances. And it is how these 7 imbalances are expressed in us that we call disease. Is that making sense? So for some people, these causes, right, they're there, you can see them, the 6 of them, could lead in us having a hormonal imbalance. Or we would have a detoxification imbalance. Or we will have an inflammatory imbalance. Or we'll have a digestive imbalance. Or we'll have a musculoskeletal imbalance. Or we'll have a combination of all of them. Or a combination of 2 of them. The combinations that we end up with, nobody knows how you end up with those combinations. Is that making sense? That is why chronic illness is very, very challenging to treat. And so what is our approach? Our approach is that if you give the body all the things that the body needs, the body will self-repair, would self-heal. And that is really at the core of integrated medicine or functional medicine. And what are those 9 things? Let's look at them. And that's what we've been talking about. Most of you are aware of it. Micronutrients. You have to at least have the minimum requirements. The FDA has published that very clearly. And so it's irritating when people tell me I eat well. Nobody can eat that minimum every day if you're not taking supplements. Bullshit. Except you have a chef and you're like Oprah and they make your meals every day. Isn't that right? Except you're Oprah. Or Mr. Trump in the White House, and you have a chef who's getting all the best things and making sure your diet is. Number 2, hydration. Drinking water, which is required for your body. Micronutrients, that you're eating the right food and that the foods you're eating are not toxic. Exercise. Stress and relaxation. Detoxification. Energy metabolism. You know, one of the biggest signs for chronic illness is being tired. Fatigue, which is the biggest problem in America. People are struggling with fatigue. They're tired all the time. And that's a big sign that there is a lot of imbalances going on in the body. We are supposed to have vitality. If you look at people who are very healthy, they don't have fatigue. They're not fatigued. So if you're fatigued, it's a big sign that something is not right. When you wake up in the morning and you're still tired, something is wrong, right? And if you actually slept for 8 hours and you're still tired in the morning, then something is critically wrong. And then you balance your hormone and then you optimize sleep, right? So let's look at these imbalances. I want to spend some time looking at these imbalances. And I want to make sure that we all understand them. Okay? How are we doing for time? All right. Okay. Any questions so far? Am I going at the right speed?
I have a question about how take water that is nutritious for us, not just like, because water here is like, it doesn't have any minerals, any.
Yeah, the solution we have is that we have a really good filtration system. We have a double filtration system that is a stone filter that tends to add some minerals into it. But because I grew up in a village where the water came with minerals, that's why we actually provide you the supplementation. Yes. You understand? So you need to make sure you remove the toxicity from the water. Most of our water, we don't know what it comes from. In the village, we knew the water came seeping through the mountain, and we went to the spring to collect the water, and we knew where the water came from. Here, the water I drink, I don't know where it came from. Do you understand? So even my ancestors would cry that I'm drinking water that I don't know the source of the water. Because that's a big thing in my culture. Drinking water, what we call from the source of life. Here we just drink water that has no energy, right? Water in my culture has energy, and when we take it in the morning, that first draw we take at 5 a.m. in the morning is very important because it comes with a lot of energy. The other culture I know they practice that a lot is Korean culture. If you go to Korea, you find out that all the springs, early in the morning, everybody is climbing the hill to go carry the water. And they know that that water at 5 a.m. or early in the morning is the water that you should be drinking all day.
It's called life water.
It's called life water. Yes. The water comes with energy of the earth. You understand? In America, nobody understands that.
I know, that's why I asked you.
Yeah, they just, water. Yeah, it's not cultural, so nobody knows. But I understood the question you were asking. Yeah. So, except you go back to the village, when we spoke about the blue zones, that's what happens in the blue zones. They have that kind of water, and so they're connected to the earth, and they receive that energy whenever they drink the water. You understand? He's an energy guy, so he understands what we're talking about, right? So if you can create that kind of energy just from eating things from nature, that sustains the body also from an energy perspective. Okay? Any other question? So your water has to be filtered to remove all the toxicities. The only way you can add the minerals that are required is we offer through supplementation. Okay, that's the only way you can add back the things that are required. Okay, so let's look at these 7 what we call clinical imbalances. Okay, we have hormonal and neurotransmitter imbalances. So the hormone is a very challenging architecture. So one of the challenges about conventional medicine is that we have created specializations that make it very difficult for doctors to manage our health. So you go to an endocrinologist, you go to an ophthalmologist, you go to a dentist, you go to, do you understand? And all these different people, nobody is looking at total health. So when you go through these imbalances are present in all of us in different levels. So if you're dealing with different doctors and they're giving you different things, they're actually increasing these imbalances. So you have to take that responsibility and say, how am I going to find the right balance? Let's take, for example, a hormone replacement therapy. Everybody who's prescribed, even after the testing, has to take the hormones and feel how that is making them respond, and we make the adaptation to suit that particular person. Same thing with people who are receiving treatment for erectile dysfunction. The amounts, the volumes that you need to take are very different. So for all of us, the trigger of libido, the trigger of blood flow, all those things are driven by all these imbalances. Is that making sense? And so we don't try and treat you here by saying, let's take one imbalance and deal with it. So what we try and do here is that we know that one of the core imbalances here is imbalance number 5. The digestive, the absorptive, and the gut microbial imbalance. That is the most important, and very few people have that sorted out. Why is it the most important? First of all, it's the only way we ensure that you're getting nutrients. Secondly, it's the only way we show that you are excreting the things that need to be excreted, right? If that mechanism is not working very well, trying to figure the other stuff, it's like trying to pour sand into an open thing, right? You're not getting any outcomes. Number 3, 80 to 90% of our immune system supports our digestive system. So if you fix the digestive system as they do in most chronic cases, autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these big illnesses, once you fix the digestive tract, a lot of the symptoms begin to disappear. Even the brain issues begin to disappear, because now you've cleared the pathway for getting effective nutrition and effective excretion, right? So that's why for us, that imbalance is the biggest area for approach. The second one is the detox and biotransformation, right? Because as land animals, think about it, sea animals do not accumulate toxicity because they live in a water environment and they are sending out their detox. The salt water pulls the toxins out of their body, so they don't really accumulate. We are land animals, so we carry a lot of toxicity inside of us. Is that making sense? We carry a lot of toxicity because we are not in that water environment that was allowing us to send out all the toxins. And that's why there are concerns, right? I was just listening to a radio interview I gave up last year where we were talking about eating meat and some of the challenges of taking those toxins from the meat inside of us, which is why a lot of cultures will bleed the meat, like halal meat or kosher.
Kosher.
Yeah, where you bleed all of what we'll think are the toxins out of the meat, cure the meat before you actually eat the meat, or you eat most of the organs, right? So detoxification for us is a really, really big issue. So now as your system begins to become clean, right, we can then address issues of oxidation and reduction, which are really cellular activity issues, right? We're talking about methylation before, that you can begin to fix with nutrients and with sleep and with exercise, even hormones, neurotransmitter imbalances. When you exercise, we all know how you feel good. If you don't exercise, you miss feeling good. I mean, Elizabeth just played tennis this morning. If you don't exercise, you miss